It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
All right, welcome in on the postgame show. Wow, what a basketball game that was. Syracuse never makes it easy in the year 2025. They somehow won the game, even though they somehow almost lost the game. It was never a game that really should have been in doubt, but that's how basketball goes this year for Syracuse. It has been quite the year, and honestly, that felt like the most 2025 Syracuse basketball game I've witnessed. The phone lines are already starting to ring here. I expected that. I'm sure we'll get a lot of callers. And if you don't know the phone number, it is 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. We should hear Red Autry's full postgame press conference. We should be able to air that live from down in Charlotte. So we'll get you that once we have it, and hope to have the full postgame press conference for you, which is always brought to you by RomanoCars.com. But I'm sure I'll be taking a lot of questions about what the heck was that pass from Jaquan Carlos towards Jair Davis. And then Davis, the one thing you can't do if you're Jair Davis, who really should have never been asked to catch the ball in that situation right in front of the bench with two defenders around him. But the one thing you can't do is throw it back literally to the middle of the floor and start a fast break. This is fundamental stuff, guys. Now, it wasn't all bad. That's why it was the most 2025 Syracuse basketball game ever. There were great flashes. This team was playing hard. We've never doubted that this team is still bought in and playing hard. And J.J. Starling had a couple plays that made you stand up and walk to the other side of the room and throw something at the TV. And then he had a couple plays that was J.J. Starling in takeover mode that no one else on this team can do. And his final stats were really pretty good after he's been struggling. And we've talked about he needs to shoot less threes. Well, J.J. 0 for 1 from three-point range. The free throws are a major issue. It's almost like he's got the Y word at the free throw line. But Starling did enough in crunch time. He's their crunch time guy. When they've won games in crunch time, it's been because of him. When they've lost games in crunch time, it's sometimes been because of him as well. But he's kind of the only guy. Kyle Cuff made a couple huge free throws after sitting on the bench for a while. Went to the line calmly, very confidently. You could tell he was in there and knew that he could get the ball and wanted those free throws. He waited for them to come to him and foul him after making a mockery of the possession before that. So never easy this year. There's a lot of things that just make you scratch your head about this team. I mean, the Carlos Davis execution on the out-of-bounds play, that's just something that shouldn't happen from two guys that are maybe playing in their final basketball game of their college career. Like, they've been around. And you could get into why is Carlos, who's the shortest player on the team, inbounding in that situation. I know he's your point guard, and in theory, he's the guy that has good vision and everything like that. But gosh, it's just, even before he threw it in, when he had to call the timeout the first time, it just doesn't seem like he has a great feel for an internal clock in his head. It just was not good execution. I say all that, though, and the Orange survived, and they advanced. And they will play SMU tomorrow, and honestly, they could win that game. It's a late start, 9:30, if all goes according to plan. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a double overtime game again before that tip. But, hey, they should have beat SMU, whatever it was, a week ago, something like that. And they probably, if they play like they did throughout a good chunk of this game, will be right in it again. They might have a lead again, and we'll probably be sweating and watching the same product that we've watched for the last 3-4 weeks. It's the same movie over and over, yet they somehow hung on in this one in a game that really shouldn't have been this close. But give the Cuse credit. They're playing some good basketball. It's just not consistent, and it hasn't been 40 minutes all year, and it's probably not going to be 40 minutes all year at this point. But with that, let's go to the phone lines. Of course, we got Pat in Syracuse on line one. That was expected. Pat, what were your thoughts on this one?
It is a microcosm of some of the highs and lows, obviously, of the season. It's a shame that both teams didn't have 6 more wins because that that would have had a little bit more meaning to a pretty meaningless game. But it's nice to, play another game tomorrow night. The two things that I'll remember from this game throughout the whole offseason, 8:44 left in the game. We're up 21-12 in the first half, rather. He takes Davis out, and then they forget how to score. And it ends up being a one-point game. I think he put him back in the first half, but I can't even remember. He was out for an extended period of time in the first half when Davis was hitting his inside. He hit a three. He was getting rebounds. He was playing defense. He was doing everything. And I'm sure Red was just giving him a breather, but it literally was to me, it's the main difference in the first half. Peter's a mess. I liked his motor to start. He just doesn't do enough for me to get more than a few minutes, and he only got a few more than that, but it was too many. Second half, same thing. We were up 50-34. Florida State went on a 4-0 run with Davis still in the game. Then he takes Davis out, and the next thing you know, it's a 6-point game. So to me, I don't care what anybody says. You could have different opinions on what else could have caused it. Nobody's going to say that it was all Davis and all Red, and that decision. Nobody's saying that, but it's pretty coincidental that the two biggest runs in the game were when Davis went out. So to me, that feel is what's lacking. There was many coaching decisions, and those out-of-bounds plays were horrific. You almost got to laugh because it's like you've seen it how many times. People who want to defend Red could obviously say, and rightfully so, Red's not out there missing free throws. Red's not out there making stupid plays, basketball IQ plays. So all that can be true. But I will say that it is the coach's job to put his players in the right positions. And I just feel some of the substitutions are just so bizarre. There was one point in the game, and the announcer even said it. He said, why is Lampkin, Starling, and Davis all out of the game? He goes, who's going to score? And he's 100% right. I mean, we don't have enough firepower unless Taylor is on fire, which he wasn't, and Bell, which he wasn't. Cuff wasn't doing anything on offense. I mean, Carlos was having a great game.
The only thing I'll say, Pat, I agree with you on the first half. I think I remember that lineup being like, yeah, you probably need one of those three in the game at some point. I mean, you can nitpick, and I think it shows that you're watching the game very closely, and I love that you come on here and like have those little moments in the first half, because I think it all adds up, and you need to be on top of the rotations and the lineups, and I think we can all admit that there have been times this year just overall in the season where it feels like Red doesn't have a great grasp of that, or he looks like a guy who's in his second year as the head coach, and you just wish sometimes that maybe there was a veteran that's helping him with those things, because there's been more egregious ones throughout the year. I didn't really pick up on the Davis one in the first half. The only thing I'll say is Jair Davis played 30 minutes, Starling played 38, Lampkin played 34. Well,
that's another thing about Lampkin. I mean, Lampkin had no gas in the second half.
Yeah, and he celebrated up and down the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I would have kept Davis in more and maybe played a few more with him and
the only thing with that is it's just we're coming on here and saying, why are they blowing these games? Maybe they're too tired, and I think they do look too tired sometimes, and then we're asking for, it's like everyone got on Boeheim for playing too tight of a rotation, and Jair Davis played 30 minutes. Like, that's probably what I want him to play, and I do think he was a huge part of the game, but you got to take him out at some point.
Yeah, but Tim, here's the deal. There came 3 or 4 points, two in the first half and 2 in the second half, where he could have put him back in.
So how many minutes do you want him to play?
He doesn't call timeout, and he doesn't put him back in. So to me, Davis was probably, him and Starling were the two biggest mismatches that you had to work with. And for a while, if you remember, Starling didn't have it. Starling got it going, but he didn't have it from the line. He was missing shots. He had a great second half. But you could tell he still wasn't his A-plus game.
So, Pat,
especially in the first
just
half.
answer this. How many minutes, ideally, do you want Davis to play in this game?
In that game, he should have played more than Lampkin. He
So
had more
35
energy,
plus?
He had more rebounds.
Just give me a number.
However you want to say it.
How many minutes?
He should have put him back in 3 minutes earlier in the first half, and he should have never taken him out in the second half. That's what he should have done. And those inbounds plays are indefensible.
You want him playing
atrocious.
every minute in the second half as a big who's, I mean, it's just, you can't come on and, there's been times, and maybe it's not you, but there's been times where a lot of people have said they look too tired down the stretch, and I kind of agree with that. Like, he played 30 minutes. How many minutes do you want Davis to play in this game?
Well, what a real coach does is he rotates all three of those guys. All three of them play two spots.
They were hardly off the floor. I mean, right? Like,
Tim, you can say what you want. The bottom line is
you're not answering the question, though. Like, how many minutes do you want him to play? I mean, I think 30 is a good number for Davis. So
how about 4 more minutes?
Okay. All right, there goes Pat. I mean, this is a first day of a tournament where they've got to win every game over the next 5 days. Like, you want your post players to be, energized for the next game, or else it's not worth it. So you're balancing that a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but 30 minutes feels like a pretty good total for Jair Davis. I did think Lampkin was a little Eddie Lampkin didn't attempt a shot in the second half. That's not what you want, and that's you could pick at that as you got to dial up more plays for him. Maybe he did just look gassed in the second half, so he wasn't as effective. And what I was starting to say with Pat is he does all these celebrations and stuff. Sometimes I just want him to conserve energy because that he's a guy that they need every ounce of him to win the game. So I don't know. I think Pat, he watches the games really closely, but there's been so many times this year where we get done with these games and we're going back to the 8-minute mark. Like, what do you say? The 8-12 minute mark of the first half. And that's what we're going to remember. That's why the game was as close as it was. It's like, you can nitpick the coaching decisions for every little thing. And when a team is winning, you don't put that big of a magnifying glass on these coaching decisions. And I get that. I just said it. I mean, there's been times this year where I question the rotations, and I feel like, God, get Starling back in the game. Where's Lucas Taylor? Remember that game recently where Taylor started out great from the floor, then he kind of disappeared. Chris Bell, same thing at times. So, but to me, Jair Davis played a lot of minutes. He was effective, and he didn't look that gassed at the end of the game. And I think of all the rotation mistakes or times to critique it, like, we don't need to go to every sub in the first half and dissect all of them. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we know who Syracuse is riding with down the stretch, and I don't think I want Davis playing all 20 minutes in the second half because then he's probably even more gassed. So anyway, I've probably given that too much time. Let's get to the next caller. We got to keep it moving here. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of calls here on the post-game show. Let's see. I think we got Paul. Yep, Paul is next. I just want to make sure that was right. Paul in Baldwinsville, what's happening?
Yeah, first-time caller, just a great win. Just same old turnovers, missed free throws, boneheaded plays. But they got it done, so let's move on to the next game. I just wanted to have one question. Why is Leonard Hamilton they interviewed him for about 3 minutes. They didn't interview Autry. How is this guy? I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me about his career, but I don't think he's ever made a Final Four. They're making this guy to be one of the greatest coaches of all time. I didn't like that.
Well, I mean, he's been around forever. He's kind of an institution. I don't have a problem with that, really. I mean, let's think of it this way. If Jim Boeheim was in that game, and he's not to the level of Jim, he hasn't won a national title, but
Not even close.
Right, but you would want your coach, if you're a Florida State fan, you'd want him interviewed for 3 minutes afterwards. I don't know. That doesn't bug me too much.
That was kind of crazy. And then they went right to the coverage of him not even talking about the SU win at all. I just feel like they're up against SU. The broadcast seemed one-sided. It's just...
the broadcaster was a Syracuse alum, so...
Oh, yeah, I know that. But the other guy talking...
Oh, okay, yeah, John Crispin. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so one-sided when I watch games all the time. I don't know why why that is. But, yeah, this is a good win. I mean, I'm not, same old turnovers and just they got it. At least they got it done. The missed free throws by JJ. That's
I know. Yeah,
crazy.
12 for 22 from the line. All right, thanks, Paul. First-time caller. We appreciate it. That is Paul in Baldwinsville. All right, let's hit a break. Dro and Clay, I know you're up next, and I'm sure you've got a lot of good info on this game. We'll get to you after this timeout. We're going to try and get Adrian Autry's full post-game press conference in a little bit as well. So call in if you'd like, 315-437-7644. Back after this on QSportsTalk.com, ESPN Radio.
Syracuse basketball.
What's the chat? Just everyone talking about Pat. Oh, I gotta get. No. Yeah, I agree, Mike McAllister. That was the point I agree with. Like, there are times where you look up and you're like, I don't know if there's enough offense in this lineup. Or let's rotate so that we've got a couple of those. Like, you don't want all three of those guys out at once. But I watched the entire game and I just didn't. So there's times where, Pat, you call in and it's like, I agree. That sub was on everyone's mind. Like, why wasn't that guy back in? I just didn't think Davis in tonight's game warranted, like, really going through everything. And, I mean, what more can you really, like, the lineup is what it is at this point. We all know who's going to, I mean, Chris Bell didn't play much. Like, I just don't know if they had lost this game, I don't think it's because Jair Davis was subbed out with 8 minutes to go in the first half. Yeah, I would like to see or hear the Red post game. They've been doing that with all the guys who win. It's been cool to see that access, like, right after the game. Davis was a +6 today. I mean, plus minus doesn't mean much, but, it's a good number. He had a good game. So I get, like, you want him out there as much as possible, but, again, I don't want him playing the entire second half. You got to, because if he did that and then they lose, that's the first call. Why are we riding these guys too much? Like, they look exhausted out there. Yeah, JJ had, he was 12 for 23. He probably had the most efficient game I can remember, and that's not, like, super efficient, but he had an efficient game, and you can remember 4 or 5 shots that it was like, how did he miss that? He missed 2 layups in the first half, a transition layup that he never should have missed. He spiked a dunk. Don't even get me started on that play, when it was a 3-on-1, and you're just waiting for him to alley-oop or something. He had so many shots, like 12 for 23, but he probably, and then the free throws. I mean, 27 points, but I feel like he could have had 36 easily, which is weird to say. He's just so good at getting downhill, and he got to the basket a lot. And he finished some tough shots, too. Yep. JJ came through. I was happy to see that because I was worried people were going to be calling in saying, why is he playing so selfish, all that. I mean, he's the guy. Yeah, I like talking to Pat, but also, this isn't his show. I mean, like, the only part that's bugged me is I feel like second half of the year I butt in on one of his... give him 4 or 5 minutes to talk, and then you contest one of his points, which is what this is. You call in, you make a point, I react to your points, and if I contest, then it's considered that it's the worst thing ever. I mean, we're giving you full reign. We're giving you more time than most callers, and at the end of the day, this show isn't the Pat and Syracuse post-game show.
Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
Welcome back in on the post-game show. Orange somehow hang on. Shouldn't have been that close, but they're moving on in the ACC Tournament. Going to take on SMU tomorrow night, late night. We'll have post-game coverage for you after that one, of course. Pre-game as well. Full slate of shows tomorrow to get you ready. 9:30 is the scheduled tip time tomorrow against SMU, team that just lost to Florida State, and the Orange should have beat not that long ago at their place. SMU, like Syracuse, needs to probably win the ACC tournament to make the NCAA tournament, although they've been hovering on the bubble all year. I think they've got 22 wins. They've really picked up a lot of wins in their first year in the conference, but that doesn't mean a whole lot these days when the ACC is not that good of a league. So it'll be interesting to see how round 2 of Syracuse and SMU goes tomorrow. Eddie Lampkin, of course, will be thinking that's kind of a hometown game for him, and it's still win or go home for all these guys. Lampkin, Davis, Carlos, Taylor, that huge transfer portal class, all those guys are in win or go home mode, or else it'll be their final game of their college career. So the Orange to extend their season one more day with a victory by 4 points over Florida State tonight. Let's get back to the phone lines, which will be going throughout here on our post-game show. 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call, and Dro and Clay is next.
Hey, man, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, well, when you're 14-18, these are the type of wins you're going to get. So I'm not going to complain about how we won. It would have been nice to maybe put them away a little bit sooner. But needless to say, we did what we had to do to win the game. Yes, the free throws are bad tonight, but Orange had 3-point shooting tonight. They only made 2, I believe. Tonight.
Yeah, let me pull it up. Yeah, 2 for 14. Terrible.
Yeah, right. Davis hit 1, and
Carlos was 1 for 2.
Right. And we said going to games, and I'll give Vito props. He said Taylor's been playing very good lately. And, hitting threes. And he was non-existent tonight. So hopefully we can see that tomorrow night where he's hitting his threes. And even Bell, too. When Bell went over the backboard with Bell, you just kind of knew how it hits out that night. But, Taylor had 2 open threes.
He had a lot of open looks. Yeah. He couldn't find
2
it.
of them, 2 in the second half went in and out.
Yeah.
And also, Vito said the key. I'll give you another thing. The key tonight was to hit at least 8 threes. Well, we hit 2 and we still won. So, hoping tomorrow.
Yeah.
They can extend the season a little bit. Get to Thursday maybe. But you hit some of those threes tomorrow night. The rebounding is good. Eddie's playing good, and it's a revenge game tomorrow night. It was a close game last time. It was an exciting game actually. I believe that's the game that JJ hit the missed the.
Yes, yeah, the half court almost.
Half court almost again. So hopefully tomorrow they can win, extend the season to Thursday. But I think tomorrow we have to hit the threes tomorrow night though. Those threes have to go in, and the rebounding will be there. I would like to see them make more free throws and just not some careless plays. But needless to say, even though we're 14-18, it feels good to have another game tomorrow night.
Yes,
that's what March is about. But obviously, with the exception of a miracle run, the season's over within a couple of days. So it'd be nice to get another one tomorrow just to kind of extend it just a little bit. But I think we all know that sooner or later this run will be over and the season will be over. But it's good to have this opportunity, and it gives you opportunity to work again tomorrow night. So Look at that.
Yeah, well said, Dro.
So,
definitely need to make some more threes. Yep, appreciate it, Dro. Definitely got to make some more threes tomorrow night. And Florida State going 2 for 10 from 3 helped out. SMU is not going to do that. I think we can confidently say. Jordan and I were saying before the game tonight, before it started, we were like, feels like they either win this game, beat SMU, and lose on Thursday, or they just lose this game. It didn't feel like they were going to lose tomorrow night, but who knows with this team. That's just how I feel. I feel like we've said it all year. The ACC from 3 to 15 in the conference, not a huge gap. From SMU at the 6th seed to Syracuse at the 14th seed. Tomorrow night's probably going to be a close game. All three of these games tonight were close. We're probably going to see a lot of close games and a lot of kind of bad basketball in this ACC tournament. A lot of missed threes. I mean, you could tell the Kevin Brown and the broadcast crew were kind of joking about it a couple of times, like, let's take a break. Like, this game's off the rails. It's just not a lot of great shooting in this game. It's not the prettiest basketball ever. The first game in the ACC tournament was 55-54 on a terrible foul call at the end between Pitt and Notre Dame. So I would expect tomorrow night will be a similar script. We'll be hanging on for the final couple minutes, and we'll see how it goes. This team, of course, has not played well in crunch time. They pretty much tried to lose it tonight. But also give J.J. Starling credit because he did make a lot of huge buckets in crunch time tonight. All right, next on the phone lines is Gavendo. What's up, Gavendo?
Well, that was an interesting game.
Yeah. Wasn't that just this whole season? Just, in a 40-minute nutshell? Except for the fact that they won the game.
Hey, we're winning. Hey, we might lose. Hey, we're missing shots. Hey, we're turning the ball over.
Roller coaster.
I don't mean to harp on the players, but I can't wait for Jake Carlos to be gone. I know he tries his best, but, it's not it, dude. It's not it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we played a game earlier, and I want you to answer these yes or no, only yes or no, no explanation needed. Do we need these players next year to be successful?
Okay.
Kyle Cuff.
No. I'm not giving explanation, right?
Westry.
Okay. No
explanation needed.
Yep. No.
Right.
One word answers
Zero
only.
going with this?
Yeah.
Chris Bell.
That's a tough one. I don't know. No, I guess is the. I mean, you don't need him. That's your question, right? Do you need him to be successful next year? Right. That's
I wish
the question.
we had another year with Jair Davis. He kind of reminds me of Malik Brown a little bit.
Yeah. You wish he was like 2 inches
around.
taller too, but he played well tonight. He's his shot looks better over the course of the season.
On Eddie.
Yeah.
I've been hard on Eddie. I think he burns a lot of energy rocking the baby. Stop rocking the baby. You know what I mean?
The backpack move.
I thought they played okay. I mean, they definitely played okay. Enough with the letting people go on for 5, 6, 7 minutes just complaining because nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah.
And we respect you, Tim. We love you. Keep doing what you're doing. Go Cuse.
All right.
Got to win tomorrow.
Thank you, Gavendo. I appreciate it. I've tried with Pat this year. I don't know. It's just inevitable that we're arguing every post game this year. I don't know what to tell you. I try to just let him talk, but then he's making bad points, I feel like, and if I butt in at all, anyway, we don't have to keep talking about Pat. Let's move on to other phone calls and move on with the post game show. 315-437-7644 is the phone number to call. We'll see if we can get some of this Red Autry press conference for you potentially as early as after this break. Get his thoughts on this one and hop in the chat. CuseSportsTalk.com. We got a good amount of viewers in there. Chat is always flowing after big games like this. We'll be back here tomorrow night as well. I should be looking at the YouTube chat too. That's another option that is relatively new. So we'll get to some of your questions in the chat during this break on the CuseSportsTalk.com and here on ESPN Radio.
The Sports Show with
I'm actually okay if you hear his press. Oh, by the way, I'll be back. Got to see if Jordan's got the presser. 1 sec. All right. I'm back. Sorry. What's happening in the chat? What'd I miss? Yeah. Pizzar's got to get a little bit better at not fouling when he's out there, too. Cuse Sports Noir, you keep saying you called it. What were you saying? We're going to win? I want to give you credit. I'm not saying you're wrong. Brian will be on postgame tomorrow night. Yeah, they really could not make a three tonight. Taylor got a lot of clean looks, and I think it was just an off game. I'm not going to rag on Taylor. I mean, he's been shooting better and still did some nice things on defense. Opening line SMU -8. That's maybe like a little too high, right? I mean, I don't know if I'd go mine. I don't know if I'd be betting on SMU at that number. Let me see what Ken Palm says. I guess that was about what it was in Dallas, right? Yeah. Ken Palm has it 8. Sorry, you're right. 82.74. So that's usually right about what it is for Vegas, too. What was the first game? 77-75. SMU won. I don't see why the pregame, Zach, maybe I'm forgetting about. Is it like another game or something? Jordan maybe will let me know, but I think it's just a normal pregame like setup. Radio. Did Brian say something? It'll definitely be on Twitch. I can promise you that. And YouTube, of course. Look it up on KenPom. Yeah, sometimes I'm yelling at the Orange Nation crew that when they're guessing the lines, like, it's always what the KenPom line is. The over-under, all of it. You could just find it before it comes out. Like, well, I think the last game they were like, I'm surprised by this line. I was like, no, that's what KenPom said. I was thinking that the other day. Yeah, it is the late game. Yeah, GMAC 14-18. What was their final record? I mean, they jumped 10 wins. It's nothing to sneeze at, but they did get bounced on a late game layup, I think. Buzzer beater, basically.
Is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
Rolling late night on the postgame show. There'll be a really late night postgame show tomorrow, but hey, it's another game. Survived and advanced. The Orange over Florida State in the first round of the ACC Tournament. They'll take on SMU, the Mustangs. Their second meeting with SMU in the last 4 games. Lost on March 4th in Dallas in a vintage Syracuse game that they should not have lost this year. 77-75 was the final of that one. So they'll get another crack at SMU. Wasn't the prettiest win ever, but I think by now we know that a pretty win for Syracuse basketball is just not really out there. I guess I shouldn't say that because Virginia was a pretty win the other day on senior day, but I don't know. This team gets up, they get down. It's just a roller coaster every game, it seems like recently, and the roller coaster ended on a low note, high note. I don't know how we want to settle that because usually you don't want to be hung in the air on a roller coaster, but it ended on a positive for Syracuse. They won the game, they advanced, and that's all you need right now. Just find a way to win. So Syracuse got it done, and we are welcoming your phone calls here on the Burdick Postgame Show. 315-437-7644. We're also on CuseSportsTalk.com. A lot of people in the chat there. You can hop in there and ask away where you get no breaks on CuseSportsTalk.com. But let's get back to the phone lines, and let's check in with Tyler in Mattydale. Tyler, what's up?
Hey,
what's going on? I'm a second-time caller on the show. First time I called in the morning with...
Oh, no. Did we lose Tyler on his second call? Tyler, you got us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, you're back. Sorry, you dropped. Yeah, I got you. You dropped for a second. What's up?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm a second...
I don't know.
Who's the other guy in the morning?
Sorry, Tyler. Are you driving around or your connection's going in and out, unfortunately? Let's try one more time.
Can you hear me?
I got you, yeah.
It sounds... All right, I'm not going to put the phone on speakerphone. It sounds like I'm losing you when I put you on speaker.
Okay, yeah.
No, I was going to say, second-time caller, called once in the morning when Paulie and the other gentleman in the morning. First time calling for you. I wanted to say, Steve and Paulie, yep. So, basically, sloppy win. It's been kind of a sloppy season. Let's focus on some positives. JJ, excellent game. I think I agree with your point that you said earlier. Could have easily been a 35, 36-point game for JJ. He missed that dunk, missed a couple easy layups he usually gets off the finger roll. Obviously missed a bunch at the foul line. If all those go in, that's an easy 35, 36-plus point JJ game. I think we got really defensive good production out of Lucas Taylor and Kyle Cuff. I will mention, I'm surprised no callers even mentioned it yet that's called in tonight. Number one on FSU, that Watkins, man, I thought he had at least one flagrant foul, and I thought at least half of the fouls that he got in his favor that I think should have been offensive fouls that were called defensively against Syracuse.
The ones on Cuff were
against
terrible.
Taylor and Cuff.
Yeah,
there was two on Cuff. One where he, pole-axed him and clotheslined him. And there was another one where it was a full arm extension. He literally leaned in with the shoulder and then full arm extension pushed out. I'm like, I don't know how at least one of those wasn't a flagrant. And I thought Lucas Taylor was just playing clean D on him sometimes. And, except for obviously that 3-point one towards the end.
That was
where
a tough
he definitely put hands on him and stuff. Yeah, I didn't say all of them, but I could see at least half on the Cuff and Taylor between them, where it seemed like all of them were going his way, and I was like, that was kind of bull crap. I didn't really like how he was playing dirty like that, leaning with the shoulder, extending the arm on the guys for stuff. So, I don't know. That was kind of wild. They had a lot of stuff going their way there. Sloppy win. Obviously, at one point, we were almost up 20 on them. They just needed, a three and maybe, a free throw to go their way. Right. They were almost up 20, and then they let them crawl back into the game as, has been experienced this season. I don't want to totally agree with who's the first caller that called in today?
Pat in Syracuse, yeah.
One guy, Pat. So I will say at some points in time this season, and especially this game, Autry's second-year head coach, you could see a little bit of coaching inexperience and see some of the questionable substitutions. I will agree that I don't think there should ever be a time where Eddie, Jair, and JJ are out of the game, even if it's for a minute or two.
Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree with you. There's a way that you can rotate all three of those guys and juggle minutes there. I don't think any of those guys played in I think they could have been subbed more, to be honest. I think when you said Jair got 30 minutes, Eddie got, 34 or something, and
34.
JJ pretty much played the whole game. I didn't really see a big difference when Jair was out, like he was saying, but I saw a big difference, and I know Eddie needs rest, is there was a good time period there where maybe it was 3 or 3.5 to 5 minutes. It seemed like almost consecutively where he had McLeod back in there instead of Eddie. And he did get one dunk, McLeod, but then he just couldn't hold on to the ball 3 or 4 times and wasn't getting rebounds. And I feel like that's when they crawled back in the game when we, didn't have Eddie's down low presence and rebounding potential and all the stuff that he's doing. Because at times during the season, there's a reason we got Eddie out of the portal. It's because McLeod's not the guy for the starting center. We gave him that chance last year, kind of clumsy, got hurt. Malik Brown had to do it, and then, super happy we won. JJ had an excellent game. I knew we needed 20, 25 points out of him to win. Tomorrow, if we need to win, we need to clean up the free throw shooting. We need to shoot better at the 3-ball. And obviously, we can't just force stupid fouls. We can't have Eddie getting 3 fouls or something before halftime, because if we have to start limiting guys' minutes that we need in there to win the game in clutch, that's going to be tough. Hopefully, Lucas Taylor can get hot again. He's been pretty good lately, get some good defense. I think we need better bench production, too. I think Florida State had 22 to 25 points, something like that off the bench compared to our 4 or 5 or something like that. So
yeah, it was 26 to 4 bench points. Yep. So, good points, Tyler.
That's a huge difference there. But so we definitely need to do that to keep the momentum going. Super excited for the season and next year. kind of continue off one of the points that I think the last caller meant. He was telling you next year, some of these guys, do we need them back to win? And you were saying like one-word responses because that's what he wanted, like no or something. I think it's a benefit to have Bell, Cuff. We definitely want JJ back. He's a starter. Because if we can get those guys cheap for not a lot of NIL money, because let's be honest, Bell's regressed a lot this year since last year. He was nowhere close to his shooting performance and everything we needed him for this year. If we can get those guys on the cheap, why would you not keep them? You need good guys to come off the bench or good senior veteran leaders and stuff like that, and then you can supplement with the portal and the new incoming class you have. Then that's less bodies you got to replace. And I think the scholarships increased for basketball, too, from 13 to 15. Yeah. I don't even think we're using all 13 scholarships as it is right now. So the more bodies and people we can rotate, get more experience, get new talented recruits coming in, I mean, I think that's a positive and better things are on the horizon.
All right, Tyler, we got to let you go. We got other callers to get to, but good points there. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks a lot. That is Tyler in Mattydale, which I agree with pretty much everything he said there. So glad that we figured out his reception. Let's keep the phone calls coming. Let's hit Luke in East Syracuse. What's up, Luke?
Hey, Tim. First time, long time, buddy. How's it going?
Not bad, man. Appreciate it.
Listen, I'm listening to the show, and I don't want to make this about me, although you listen to some of the callers going on and on a little bit, but I will say this. Small chance I did save the season. I hadn't gone to a game all year. Saturday rolls around. I'm seeing tickets for like $7. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the game. So I go to the game, boots on ground. They blow out Virginia. They beat Florida State. So I don't want to put it all on me, but there's a good chance, Tim, that I have turned around the Syracuse basketball season.
Yeah. Is there a chance maybe that you may have reverse jinxed it, though? There was some rumors of, I don't know if it was a different Luke in East Syracuse. I don't know. But, hey, maybe we just need to get you on a plane and get you down to Charlotte for tomorrow.
Listen, man, if you can swing that, I'm all for it. And I want to say one more thing, because I'm listening to callers today. And I get it. Pat knows ball. He's a high school rat. He knows ball. I get it. But I feel like people in Syracuse have forgotten what March is. Like, it's survive and advance right now, baby. Like, it does not matter how pretty, how ugly, who's on the court, what the substitutions are. Like, you just got to win ball games in March. And I feel like we've forgotten that as a community. It's something that we kind of pride ourselves on, making deep runs in the tournament, winning shocking games. Like, let's just keep winning. Like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about a team that just won a game to keep their season going. So all you have to listen to them. Great show as always, but thanks for having me. All
right, I appreciate it, Luke. Yeah, the thing I'll say about, and I don't want to keep going back to the Jair Davis minutes and all that, but if they hadn't given him any rest and then he's tired at the end, there would have been callers saying that's why they lost the game. So I'm a little worried, like, how much will Lampkin have in the tank tomorrow? How much will he have in the tank on Thursday, Friday? Like, but at the same time, these guys are constantly working out. They're, you get a lot of breaks in these games. It's extended break time because of the TV window. Everyone was watching Zen on YouTube TV. It feels like they don't even have commercials to fill these games at this point. But anyway, it just, you got to do what you can. You got to ride these guys. You don't have a tomorrow unless you go all out and try and get the win in the game that you have ahead of you. So it seems like that's the game plan. And they do need to get a little bit more from the bench. But in general, it felt like they did a good job with the rotations tonight, at least. All right, Vito in Liverpool. We'll go to you next. What's up, Vito?
Yeah, it's a good win, man. Florida State's had our number the last few years, so it's a nice thing to knock them out of the ACC tourney. A couple things that I want to point out when I'm looking at that stat sheet, man. Lucas Taylor was 0 for 7 overall, 0 for 6 from 3, 2 points. Chris Bell 0 for 4, 0 for 3 from 3. So those two guys right there were 0 for 9 from 3. If Florida State shot any better from 3, I don't think they win this game. Florida State was 2 for 10. Cuse was 2 for 14 from 3. So terrible night from 3. They out-rebounded them. SU out-rebounded them by 10.
That was big.
Turnovers relatively low, 11 for Syracuse, 8 for them. So, it was.
I'm seeing 10 for them, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. It relatively.
Was it 10? Oh, it must have got updated then. Okay, so it got updated. It was 50-34, and it was the same thing that happened in the SMU game. Just that complete collapse, missing free throws. Starling, I don't want to knock him, but he's got to be better from the line. I mean, you got to be able to count on your guard to, he's got to hit those. on a night when Cuff and Taylor were off, though he saved the team. It was 12 for 23. Obviously, he carried the team on his back tonight. But the one thing that I do like is he kept. I think Autry learned that you got to keep Davis in the game for at least 30 minutes, and that's exactly what he got tonight. 30 minutes. I kind of don't understand Carlos getting 38, though. That's kind of strange. I mean, I think you can bring in Cuff a little bit more.
He was just in foul trouble, I think, Cuff. You know? I mean, he had 4 fouls in the 7 minutes he played.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I didn't even think about that. But, I guess Bell being the defensive liability he is, probably didn't bring him in because of that reason.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's just, even though this is a terrible season, I think they're what are they, 14, 13, and 18 now?
14 and 18, yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a terrible season, but when you hit these tourneys, I still have that same, excitement for the games. I still want to see us survive and play on. So hopefully we can win another one tomorrow, revenge that SMU loss from a week or two ago, and just keep trying. It'd be nice to see if we can face up against Clemson in a couple days.
Yeah, good points all around, Vito. I appreciate you checking in. I know a lot of fans out there have checked out on the season, and then, come 2-3 weeks from now, we'll be like, man, it'd be nice to have a Syracuse basketball game tonight, or we'll be looking for things to do on weeknights. So they gave us one more game, and we'll see how tomorrow goes. I'm glad that Vito brought up the rebounding and the turnovers. When we were on the pregame show, we talked about how FSU out-rebounded Syracuse in the first game. The Orange had 15 turnovers in the first game in Tallahassee in early January. Florida State had 13 fast break points off of that. 4 fast break points, just 11 turnovers tonight. That's what Florida State wants to do. They want to get out and run, and they were not able to do that. Syracuse still had some head-scratching turnovers, but all in all, if you would have told me 11 turnovers against a team that is very long, lanky, athletic, forces a lot of turnovers typically, I would have taken that. And to out-rebound them by 10, really dominated them in the second half. There was that stretch where they went on a run in the second half, and it just felt like they were playing about as hard as they possibly could. And that's encouraging to see at this point in the season. Brian said it also in his show on the 315. This was a game about who wants it more. When you're talking about two teams that are in the Tuesday night game of the ACC tournament, they know that their seasons are just, counting down the days in a way. You could look at it that way. Was one team going to play for their head coach really hard, and Leonard Hamilton, whose career is now over? Was Syracuse just going to play hard because it's Eddie Lampkin, Carlos, all these guys' last games? And it did feel like Syracuse played a lot harder than Florida State. And then human nature, Florida State got down, and they came back and showed some urgency. But overall, the Orange were a team that wanted it more tonight. And you can see it in some of those hustle stats, which is good to see because it has not been that way for every game this year. Still a lot of things to clean up. They're going to have to probably play better tomorrow night. As we're looking at it, SMU is probably going to be 8-point favorites tomorrow. So we can talk a little bit about the game tomorrow night. We'll wrap things up. We can take your phone call on the other side as well. Phone lines are open. If you call right now, 315-437-7644. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
Evan Canty and Michelle.
I don't think we're gonna be able to get the press conference, unfortunately. We'll play back some sound from the TK99 Learfield broadcast, what Red told our good pal Paulie as he was leaving the floor, but we tried, the link didn't work, and then we thought we'd be able to get it a different way and couldn't, so we were trying, but sorry guys. Oh, okay. Yeah, they can't. That's right. Paulie can't get him. Jordan's telling me it's not actually Paulie because the ACC tournament rules are weird. He has to do the press conference before he can even talk to radio. So they probably just played back on TK some of his presser. So we'll give you that as we come back. That's all we could get, unfortunately. But of course, tomorrow there will be some more sound, I'm sure, on Orange Nation and things like that. Yeah, don't give away the secrets. Anyone in the chat, what did he say in that little, like, locker room spiel? Nothing crazy, I'm sure, but any shout out anyone? Or the part that they show on ACC Network, it seems like. I saw it a couple times, but I, of course, can't hear it. Yeah, the turnovers were... I mean, there was the one Starling just, like, was dribbling between his legs, lost out of bounds, but there wasn't as many, like, oh my gosh, what is that, turnovers tonight. I guess I should rephrase that one in deep in crunch time with the Davis turnover was very frustrating. I'm almost putting that in a different category. Yeah, I mean, it was maybe so bad it was good, right? The game, like, it was close. I don't know if it was, like, terrible basketball, but it just wasn't, no one was making shots. So then it became, you know, who can get inside. Really, the free throw shooting. I mean, FSU was 67% from the line. Syracuse was 12 for 22, and that was with Cuff and Davis making 4 straight to end the game. We're disappointed in the men or the women. I don't know. I would say maybe the men, just because you're not, like, the women's team had a great year last year, so you're kind of like, okay, it doesn't work out every year. The men's team, you're like, okay, this has been 4 years in a row not making the tournament. It was trending up. I thought after 20 wins, they might build on it. You know, I didn't really have high expectations, to tell you the truth, for either of them. I did not think the women's team would make the tournament, but I also thought they'd win more than 12 games. They just had a tough year, but oh boy. Jordan has told me that I'll never believe who's calling right now. So that could be really good, could be really bad. Oh, good, Cuse Sports North. So what's your prediction tomorrow? 7.7. Oh, man. Got a mysterious caller after Matt. We'll see who it is.
This is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
All right, final segment on the postgame show. We'll be back with you tomorrow night. Getting you ready for another game, and we'll see if the Orange can survive and advance again. ACC Tournament first round game. Syracuse wins it over Florida State 66-62. Led by as many as 16 in the second half. I thought it was going to be a true 2025 Syracuse basketball game, all wrapped into one. The entire season wrapped into 40 minutes, and they might cough it away at the end. But after a couple head-scratching turnovers, mixed with some really nice crunch time plays from J.J. Starling, who got back to kind of being that dude, and there's JJ's been taking some heat. He's had a couple down games, so let's give him some props here. 27 points, 12 for 23. Everyone was saying stop shooting threes. He attempted 1 3. He was aggressive, attacking, getting downhill the entire game, and I thought overall was very good, with the exception of that 3-on-1 fast break where he tried to dunk it with his left hand, too. For a guy that says he drives with his left hand, remember he broke his left hand this year, and he was talking about, oh, it's tough. I eat food. I drive. He always lays it up with his right hand from the left side. Then he cocks back with his left hand for the dunk. I can't make sense of what hand he goes to for different things, because he seems to be very right-hand dominant around the basket, dunking with the left hand, shoots with his right hand, says he eats with his left. I don't know. It's confusing. If you eat with your left hand dominant, you think you'd be more ambidextrous around the basket, but that's for another day. I don't think anyone really cares about that. But, mate, let's go back to the phone lines, and we got Matt in East Syracuse. What's up, Matt?
Tim. Yeah, if JJ landed that dunk, that would easily have been probably top 5 on SportsCenter's top 10 plays, right?
It would have brought the house down. But at the same time, an alley-oop to Jair was wide open. That maybe could have cracked SportsCenter. Probably not, but you know what I mean. Yeah, there was other options there.
Yeah, that would have been nice. My first thought was, when they took that 50-34 lead, and the guys were, on the bench, Eddie turned around, was pumping his chest, and fans were going crazy. I know I wasn't the only one thinking this is still going to be a one-possession game.
Yes. Yeah. I think every member of Orange Nation was thinking this is not over yet. Yeah. I'm still kind of amazed they won after some of the turnovers they had. It felt like the same movie again, but they were able to hang on. And credit Kyle Cuff. He made some big free throws down the stretch.
Yeah, those were huge. It was like a slow drip of turnovers and Florida State baskets, and I was a little frightened. And initially, I was thinking, okay, we got the game, it's in the bag, and then I realized, this is the 2025 version of Syracuse, and the game's going to be much different down the stretch. But I don't know what we can do about free throws. I mean, this is unbelievable. I've never, down the stretch, I'm seeing guys miss. And I mean, this has happened all season. I'm like, is there anything Red can do to get through to these guys? I mean, do they have to make 25 straight free throws to leave the gym? I don't even know what else you can do at this point to get them to make more free throws.
I mean, I've been at some practices. They shoot a lot of free throws. Like, I know that they know it, and it's frustrating. I think back, I'm a golfer, and sometimes it's like you need to rep. If I'm struggling putting, you can't just go on the putting green and hit meaningless putts, right? You have to have something on the line, whether, like you're saying, maybe you can't leave practice until you make these free throws. You have to try and replicate pressure as much as possible, and I'm sure they are doing that, but it is frustrating. It feels like this team just doesn't have a ton of confidence or belief in themselves in crunch time, and that's because they've lost a lot of games in crunch time. So, some teams just have that belief. Like, there's some years where you're around groups and you feel good about how they're playing in crunch time, or you feel good when they're at the line. And this is not one of those teams, and it's probably because the first game it went wrong. It's like in golf. If you miss a short putt on the first hole, the next short putt you get is tougher, And I'm not trying to make it all a comparison to golf, but it's a mental thing at the free throw line, right? Like, J.J. Starling, he's got a little hitch in his shot. I mean, that's a mental thing. It's not, I'm sure, as bad of a hitch when he's shooting in the Mello Center by himself,
Yeah, it's just not translating late in the crunch time, and it's awful to see. I mean, they need to make those shots, and they're free for a reason. And I'll end with this. Earlier in the season, I felt like Red was way too passive on the sideline. He kind of let things go off his shoulder, and I felt like he needed to light a little more of a fire under the guys, get them motivated. And I've noticed these last few weeks, I mean, the camera turned to him a few times, and he was getting into it. He was getting down at a defensive stance. He was barking out to guys. When Lucas Taylor made that crazy foul at the on the three-pointer.
Yeah, he's pacing down the sideline, right? Yeah,
he lost it, and I love to see that. I think that's how certain guys respond and motivate well to that, and I want to see more of that. I think when Red kind of gets after him, it's a different team. So I'm hopeful that he'll continue some of that.
Yeah. I appreciate you checking in, Matt, and hopefully we'll hear from you tomorrow night after another win. We'll see how it goes tomorrow night.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, that's Matt in East Syracuse. I will say it's funny because that's his perspective on Red and that Lucas Taylor play. I thought we were going to get a caller saying he's too negative sometimes, because that's been a theme, too, this year is, when someone makes a dumb play, he's like pacing the sideline and looks a little too negative at times. And I can kind of hear that. It's also like, can you blame him sometimes? Because this team does some dumb things. I mean, that pass in from Carlos and the Davis live ball turnover, stuff like that, it's adding up. So it's probably taking a toll on Red. All right, our final caller is a loyal OG caller. This is a fitting way to conclude our postgame show. We'll check in with Scooter in Jamesville. Scoot, what's happening?
Great night. Of course, FSU beating Florida State, Gonzaga beating St. Mary's, been the finals in the championship for 28 straight years. So, that's about as consistent as you can possibly be. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if if you looked at the Vegas lines, but the lower seeds were actually the favorites outside of the Florida State. Ironically, California was favored over Virginia Tech, which is the 10-15 matchup, and actually Pittsburgh was favored over Notre Dame. And Syracuse was only a 2-point underdog to Florida State.
After they beat them by 16 in the regular season. That was like Vegas knew something, you know?
Yeah. But I said it this year, and it's not that Syracuse is great, that the ACC would take away Clemson and Duke physically. Louisville, I think, has to shoot the ball well to win games, so it'll be interesting to see if they don't shoot the ball well. But, just like the Forrest Gump line about when you get a box of candy,
chocolates,
you don't know what you don't, a box of chocolate, you don't know what you got. And I think it'll go up to the Wake Forest, the 4 seed. There's no reason that anybody can't beat anybody 4 seed down in this tournament. And that's why it gave me the feeling like we'll see if SMU comes out and is motivated, but I thought they weren't motivated after they lost the Stanford game. I saw the Stanford game, and the last 3 minutes of that game, they played like dogs. They had leads, and then they ran down 3, and they didn't. And then the coach just allows the time to run out at the end when they don't even have 4 seconds differential on the clock, and then there was a foul back, and now they're down 5.
This is SMU you're talking about, right?
Yeah, SMU against Stanford. It was the craziest thing. They didn't extend the game. They're down 3, and they're basically Stanford had the ball with 35 seconds left with a full 30-second shot clock. And they shot it basically with 7 seconds left, and they got a tip in to up 5, and that was it. And you saw how badly they played against Syracuse. It's almost like Syracuse gave that game away. So from a motivation standpoint, what do they have to play for?
Right.
They're not even close to on the bubble. So I just thought basically the 2 teams I wanted to avoid basically was Clemson and Duke. And if you can get to Friday, now I think we've got a great set to go in for Thursday. And to me, we'll find out.
That's Clemson, yeah. If you win tomorrow, it's Clemson, yep.
It's Clemson. So that's the only, like I said, it's Clemson and Duke is the only 2 teams I think physically Syracuse is going to have troubles. But those 2 teams I like is that they got answers. If they don't shoot the ball well, they got rebounding and defense, and they usually play good as a team. And so those are the 2 teams, Clemson and Duke, that you just want to avoid. But are you scared of Wake Forest if Syracuse happened? No,
they almost beat them without JJ. I mean, really, they should have won that. It was at home, but they don't scare you too much. Salas is a good player, but you're right. It's what we said all year. Outside of the top 3 teams, SMU doesn't scare me. I'm looking at the line, -8. It looks like it's going to be for SMU. I just think it's going to be another close game. I think all these games are going to be close. Now, Clemson, that's a different animal, especially after, it's your 3rd game in 3 days, and Clemson's been sitting and they're well rested. So we'll see.
Well, you have to laugh at this. I know NIL must be wanting people to go somewhere, because being a Gonzaga fan, 2 of the top players are Wake Forest are from Gonzaga. And why do you go from a team that's in the tournament developing NBA players to go to Wake Forest? And I mean, the team that hasn't gone to the tournament, and so it's got to be money.
Right.
And,
he got paid a lot, I think, Salas, to come back.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just saying that you left Gonzaga, and they develop NBA players. If they weren't developing NBA players to go into the tournament every year, you leave it. So we'll see. I think they got a great shot against SMU. See if SMU is motivated. And they haven't shot the ball well if you look at the last couple games. And so we'll see what happens.
Yep.
But, like I said, I wasn't surprised tonight, and my pocketbook said the same thing. So.
There you go. I'm guessing you made some money on Gonzaga too, Scooter. So hopefully they keep on rolling for you.
I split. I had the over too, because I figured that it was a low run. When you see Gonzaga at 136 games, usually, and they went like 1 for 14 shooting threes.
Wow, that's almost as bad as Syracuse. They were 2 for 14.
Exactly. Yeah, it was.
All right,
anyway,
Scooter.
We'll see.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon. I'm sure that's Scooter in Jamesville. Before we get out of here, let's hear a little bit from Coach Autry in his post-game press conference, about a minute or so. Always brought to you by RomanoCars.com. Here's Coach Autry after the win.
I thought our guys showed a lot of heart. They've been showing a lot of heart all year, and they've been battling all year. And to be able to, start our new season, that's what we talked about, and to be able to come out and play, a tough Florida State team, and not play our best offensively, but to show the toughness and stay together, and that's what we talked about. And to be able to pull this out, this is really good for us. These guys deserve it. We've been through a lot this year, and I just was proud of these guys. It's been a battle all year, and they kept battling. I love their fight, and we're going to continue to do that as long as we have, a game to play. Questions?
Questions first for the players, front row.
Yeah, Aiden Stepanski from the Daily Orange. For both of you guys, when you see FSU kind of make those runs in the second half, how did you see your team kind of stick together and fight those off to kind of keep your season alive?
Eddie.
Basketball is a game of runs, so we just knew that we had to play for 40 minutes. We've been playing for like 20 minutes, 32 minutes, even 38 minutes. So, we executed the game plan. We did what we need to do. We got to get ready for SMU.
All right, a little bonus Eddie Lampkin at the end there as well. That's all brought to you by RomanoCars.com when we hear from the Orange head coach on our Burdick postgame show. So that is that. Went a little over an hour. A lot to discuss after this one. We hope you will join us throughout the day tomorrow. We'll get you ready for the matchup. Orange Nation, 12 to 2. We should have Cody Mack's show back from 3 to 4. Brian Higgins, 4 to 6. Pregame with Brian tomorrow, post-game with Brian. You can listen to the game, of course, on TK99 on the Syracuse Sports Network. So that is all to look forward to tomorrow. We'll see if the Orange can survive and advance another one as they take on SMU for a scheduled 9:30 tip tomorrow night. If they win that one, it's Clemson for 9:30 p.m. on Thursday night. So the season continues for one more game. We appreciate all the callers. We appreciate Jordan working into the late hours in our studios here, and we'll talk to you next time on ESPN Radio and KeySportsTalk.com.
This is Orange Nation.